now we will wrap up with head coach Seb Hines. Chicago coming to town on Friday. Just tell us the kind of matchup you expect.
Yeah, I think it's two teams that are looking to get back on form. We've had two disappointing results, by one goal deficit. So we're looking to bounce back, looking to get back into our own environment, play in front of our own fans, and put on a performance that everyone's proud of.
Going awesome. Obviously, last week was tough with the midweek game and then the travel. What has been kind of the focus this week, just in terms of training and also just having a full week of training to prepare?
Yeah, I mean, we have to reset, right? Sometimes you just get into the flow of things and never really have chance to desect because you're obviously moving on to the next game. So, yeah, I'll go even back to the last Friday where we had the excitement of beating a team like Kansas, to then the last two games being disappointing with the result. I thought, within our performances, there's a lot of effort there. The goals that we conceded are something that just keeps happening for us, whether it's one shot and it's ended up in our back of the net. So we just need to, refine a couple of things, make sure we get enough pressure on the ball so they're not getting those opportunities in front of our goal. And then when we're in the attack, being threatening, can we commit, an extra pass to get clear-cut opportunities and then execute in those moments. Last two games we haven't scored goals, and we've lost the result by the other team scoring a goal. So have to work on obviously both sides of the game, refine a lot of things, but it's given us an opportunity to kind of reset and look forward to this game on Friday.
You kind of mentioned the offensive side. Obviously, Marv now going off to WAFCON. It's hard to replicate a player that scores 12 goals for you. What is kind of the I guess, mission now in terms of trying to figure out what to do without her for a couple games?
Yeah, I mean, it's not unfamiliar territory for us. You think back to last year, half a season we were without Barbara and players stepped up. Even in that short period with her injury, we had to make adjustments, find solutions, and just find the right connections within the attack as well. It's always a case of who's going to step up in these moments and take their opportunity. And we've shown at times we're able to do that. It has been challenging, obviously, with certain injuries and managing minutes, and we're obviously asking a lot from players, and those are the challenges that always present themselves in this industry. But yeah, like I've said all the time, we're not always looking for excuses. We're always looking for solutions to be better and get the most out of players, and it's no different in this situation.
You look at Chicago since coming back from the break. They've had some good results. Obviously, just lost. What are you kind of seeing from Chicago so far since coming back from the break?
Yeah, it'll be interesting what they do with her absence, similar to ourselves without Barbara. So looking at who steps up for them in that 9 role. Hoytema's had a good, start after the break with a couple of goals. Been an area of threat for them as well. So whether they try to replicate that with another player or they find different ways to build their attack and find numbers in the attack, we'll just have to be mindful of that when we go to the game. Like you said, they've had a couple of good results. Obviously looking to bounce back as well from their last game. But again, we always want to make our environment as hostile as possible and make it intimidating, go after teams in the right moments and execute and get the fans behind us. They're our 12th player. They push us. They get behind the team, and we'll need them more than ever going into this game on Friday.
Last one for me. Obviously, Giles departed the Leopard head coaching job. He's been with you since you took over as interim. Just what has he meant to the club and to you in his time here?
No, words can't describe what he's done for me. And, I took on a team that was low in confidence. We managed to change the culture, straight away in 2022, start building in 23, making sure that we get the right players. But he's been by my side since the very start, and I can't say enough good things about him. Even when he told the team, you can see the reaction of the players. They were devastated to see that he'd moved on. And that just shows what type of character he was and how he, had an effect on every single player in a positive way. So, Yeah, we're obviously in contact. You know, he's one of my best mates. You know, keeping in touch with each other, and you know, I'm really looking forward to see what he can do there as a head coach. You know, we felt he was ready. You know, I backed him. You know, if he needed anything, I'm by his side as well. So, yeah, good luck, new environment, different style, different you know, culture. So he's got a lot of challenges, but I know he's capable of facing them head on. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do.